Welcome back, Cat 5 class. We're going to go over problem 818. So once again, we're going to take this isometric view with dimensions and we're going to create some views, front and top or front and side view, and use these dimensions to correctly dimension our views. All right, so let's take a look at the 3D model. Okay, so let me go ahead and open up eDrawings. Should already have it open. There it is. So we have eDrawings. So here's what it looks like. Okay, so we're going to use this as our front view. Okay, so this will be our front view. And then we're going to create a top view. Okay, so these two views will be more than enough. Okay, so this will be our top view and our front view, and there's no need for a side view, right? The side view pretty much almost looks similar to the front view. So you can see front, side. So the side view doesn't really give us much any further information. So we're just going to stick with front view and top view. All right, so let's take a look at the front view. And by the way, you don't draw the tangent lines, right? So this is where we go from a flat surface to a cylindrical surface. We ignore the seam, right? Because you actually don't see it. It's a nice smooth transition. Same thing with this one. And on the opposite sides. All right, so let's take a look at the PDF file. So what does the answer key look like? Let's cheat. Take a look at it. There it is. Okay, so we have our front view, dimension, and our top view. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the AutoCAD file. Okay, so we have our front view and we're going to draw our top view. Top view. So let's first complete the views. Okay, so in our front view, it's complete. All we're missing are the center lines. Okay, so we're missing the center lines, but before we go to the center lines, let's first complete our top view using the white visible object lines. Okay, so let's go to our top view. I'm going to roll the wheel to zoom in and out. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's go over to the white visible object layer. There it is. All right, so we need to draw an arc here, and same thing with this one. Now the construction lines are there for you to cheat, right? Construction lines guide you along, okay, to help you draw your views. All right, so let's go back. Okay, so we're going to draw the circles and the arc. Let's first start with the arc, and then we know it lines up with the center line, so we are going to come back and draw our center line. This is supposed to be a center line. Just the dashed lines didn't show up. All right, so center line goes straight up. Okay, there's our center point. We'll draw our circles and the arc. Okay, so we're going to first start with the arc. Okay, so the arc has a radius of 2. So that's the distance from the center to any point along the arc. So distance of 2 from center to any point, center to any point on the arc, center to any point on the arc. All right, so let's draw this arc, but instead I'm going to use the circle command to draw this 2-inch radius circle. Then I'm going to go to this center mark and draw a 1-inch radius circle, and then we'll come back and trim off the excess. All right, so let's draw those two circles first, a 2-inch radius and a 1-inch radius. All right, so we are in the visible white object layer, right? We're going to use the circle command, circle, and we're going to follow the center. So this is the center. We're going to follow it along. There's the center mark, click. And we can either type in 2 inches for the radius, right? We can either type it in down here. It's asking us for the radius. If you have dynamic input on, you'll be able to type it in on the fly. I'm just going to use the construction lines. There it is. We know it lines up with this corner down here. So I can just go straight up. And there it is. There's the first circle. Repeat on the right side. Okay, so circle command again. we're going to go to this center point, which lines up with this construction line, and we're going to go to this corner. Okay, so from this center mark or intersection, click, that's our center mark, and we're going to go up to this corner here, follow the construction line, and there it is. All right, so let me hit escape to deselect, make sure I exited the command. Okay, so now we need to connect the circles. Okay, this is going to be a little tricky. I'm going to show you a new option on the line command today. Okay, so if we go back to the PDF file, I want you to notice that it's a smooth transition from the arc to the line. So these are tangent, and same thing on this side. The line is tangent to the arc. Okay, there's no sharp corner. So let me show you what some of you guys are going to do, and it's going to be a mistake that I will take points off. All right, so some of you are going to do this. All right, I need to connect the circles, right? Some of you are going to do this. You're going to use the line command and go to the quadrant, bottom quadrant, and bottom quadrant. Let me turn off ortho. Okay, and right click enter. Okay, so this is incorrect. This is not a smooth tangent. So the line hits, then it goes around. It's supposed to be a nice transition. It's supposed to touch somewhere over here and not here. Okay, so you actually have tangent discontinuity at this point. So this line is in the wrong place. Go over to the other side and zoom in. You can see it's not tangent. A line, if it's tangent to a circle or an arc, does not intersect at 2 points. So here we're intersecting at 2 points. When it comes to tangency, you cannot intersect at 2 points. You can only intersect at 1. Okay, so it actually should intersect somewhere in this area. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do this correctly. Again, if you do it this way, if you go quadrant to quadrant, it's incorrect. I'll take points off. So let me delete it and recreate it. Let me temporarily turn off my construction lines. All right, so I'm going to use the line command. Use line command. All right, now I'm going to type in TAN for tangency. What? I said TAN for tangency, TAN. So I typed it in down here in the command line. If you have your dynamic input on, you can just simply type in TAN for tangency and hit enter. And now let's do the bottom one first. I'm going to hover. Notice how as I hover over the circle, you can see this tangency object snap. And it looks like the green lantern ring. Yep, the green lantern ring, right? So that tells us, hey, we got tangency, or we're going to create tangency. So I click on the bottom of the circle, anywhere on the bottom, it doesn't matter where, as long as it's the bottom portion of it, click. And notice how it stays tangent to the bottom of the circle. Ta-da! Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing, but we need to type in TAN. What? I said TAN again. TAN. You have to do it a second time. Oh, misspelled it. TAN in the command line. Type it in, right? And hit enter. Now you can do the exact same thing. Look for the green lantern ring. So there's only two options, the bottom half or the top. So it'll either go tangent here or tangent on the bottom. Okay, so as long as you pick anywhere towards the bottom, it'll make it tangent to the bottom portion of the circle. If you click anywhere towards the top, it'll make it tangent to the top. Okay, so we want the bottom. So as long as you click anywhere on the bottom portion, click, it'll make it tangent, as you can see. Ta-da! And right click enter. Okay, so now you can see that it's tangent. It's a smooth transition. It only intersects at 1 point and not 2 points like we did earlier. All right, so this is the right way of doing it. So let's repeat the same thing at the top, line command. Okay, so line command, then type in TAN, enter. And look for the green lantern ring, guarantees tangency, click. So now it's tangent to the top. Now let's go over to this side, type in TAN again, enter. As long as you click anywhere on the top portion of it in 3, 2, 1, click, see how it adjusts itself to intersect at a tangent point. Okay, so now we can right click enter to exit. All right, so now what we can do is use trim to remove the excess. So we need to remove the excess here. If we go back and cheat, look at the answer key. Right, we need to remove this excess here and the excess here off of the circles. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so we're going to use trim. Okay, so instead of clicking on trim, first I'm going to pre-select everything in the top view, just to make it quick, right? And then I'm going to select on the trim command, the scissors, trim. Then I can remove the portions I don't want. And either hit enter or escape to exit the command. Ta-da! All right, so we're almost there, almost there. Okay, so now we're missing the circles representing these shafts. All right, so using circle command, let's turn on, actually let's go first and turn on our construction layer. Okay, so we have two circles here. So let's use the circle command. We are in the visible white object layer, and it lines up with this center point. Click, and there we're going to create our first circle, the little one. There it is. Okay, so that little circle represents the small shaft. Now let's draw the medium one. Circle command, again, same center point. And we're going to go to this corner here, go straight up, and click, and there it is. And we're done with the object lines. Okay, all we're missing now are the green center lines, and then we'll do the dimensions. Okay, so let's go to the front view first. Let's go to the green center layer. Draw our lines. Line command. And always extend slightly beyond. Oh, let me turn on ortho. And there it is. Right click, enter. All right, so now let's draw a green center line for this side because we do have a semicircle. It's not exactly semi, it's almost just slightly less than half, but good enough for us to draw a green center line. So green center line. Okay, and right click, enter, there it is. Okay, so we have our center lines for the front. Now let's do the one on the top. So for the top, we can use center marks. I know some of you like using the center marks. So I'm going to go to annotate. And we're going to use center mark, and pick the larges of these three. We have two circles and an arc. Go with the larger one. There it is. And let's go with the little one. Okay, and hit escape once you're done. Or hit enter to exit. And we can always extend the green center lines and connect them because this is symmetrical. The top portion of the top view is a mirror image of the bottom. So we can go ahead and just extend our green center lines. Again, go beyond the object lines. If you want, you can go further out. This is too tight. You can always use the arrows to extend them out further, right? Oh, way too much. All right, hit escape. All right, so let's go ahead and turn off our construction lines. Let's go back to the Home tab. Turn off the construction lines. We don't want to leave any evidence that we cheated. All right, so now we need to bring in the dimensions. Okay, so we're going to identify our datums. Okay, so the datum that we're going to choose here for the front view is the bottom surface, right? The bottom surface has more surface area than the top. So we're going to dimension bottom to top, and bottom all the way to the top. Okay, so let's take a look at the answer key. So notice all three dimensions, the 1 inch, 2 and 3 inches measurements are all dimensioned from the bottom datum. Bottom to top, and so on. All right, so let's throw in those three dimensions first. All right, so let's go to the dimensions layer. And as I mentioned in the lecture notes, dimensions have the same line weights as the hidden line and center line, which is around 0.30, 0.35 millimeters. Okay, so let's go to dimensions. And instead of using this dimension wizard icon, I'm going to go the long way. You can also go to the Annotate tab where you have a lot more options. I'll stay here in the Home tab. And here's the other option is to go here and let's throw in some linear dimensions. So linear is for vertical and horizontal dimensions. So go bottom to top. And let's do it again. Okay, linear dimension. Click on the vertex, go to the next vertex, and there's the next one. Notice how it automatically adds the gaps. Okay, and again, you don't want a dimension overlapping an object line like this. This is not acceptable. Again, you don't want an extension line of a dimension overlapping an object line. It's okay if you cross an object line, you just can't overlap them as shown. So let's fix this. And we just go over to the vertex and it automatically adds the gap. Let me hit escape. Okay, so it automatically adds gaps. Okay, this one doesn't look very well here, right? Even though it's on the top side, we're gonna have to move this one downward. So I'll select it and use the grip to move it downward and let's slide it over. Okay, so that's one option, hit escape. Another option is to have the arrows outside and the 1 inch inside. I'll leave it up to you. You don't have to follow the answer key. Let me bring this one closer. All right, so let's throw in the 3 inch dimension. Okay, vertical dimension. So let's go with linear once again. Bottom left corner, top vertex, and then click again to position. Okay, and the spacing looks pretty good. Okay, just kind of eyeball it. You don't want these to be too tight or too far apart. It's about a text height apart. All right. Now, let's take a look at the other dimensions. Okay, this one's a little tricky. Okay, so notice the left nor the right were chosen as a datum, right? The right nor the left. And the reason is because it's round. It's not a flat surface on the right nor the left. It's actually round. So here's one situation where it's preferred to dimension instead of the overall length to instead dimension center to center. Okay, and the reason is for machining and also for inspection. Okay, so the machinist cares more about the center points of the large arc and of the small arc. Okay, so when it comes to positioning or drilling a hole, the centers are more important. All right, so we're going to go with an overall dimension of 6 from center to center. So let's do this one first. Then we'll come back to the front. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw in a center. I'm going to take a linear dimension, center to center. So we're going to go center to center. Okay, and there it is. Okay, and here we have the extension lines overlapping the center lines. So we can actually extend them using the grips or move them further out. Okay, let's see it escape. So we can have the extension lines start at the center marks or center lines. Okay. Now, some of you are wondering, hey, but don't you want to know the overall length of this? And yes, you do, right? Especially for ordering materials. So if you're going to machine this out of aluminum, for example, somebody needs to order the material. So typically you want the overall dimension. So in this case, if you go back to the answer key, you have to do a little bit of math. Okay, so it's 6 inches. So this is inches. We can tell because there's no 0 in front of the 0.75. This is diameter, not a 0. Okay, so the overall length is 6 plus 1 plus 2 is 9. So the overall length is 9. So we can do a little bit of math. Okay, so let's go ahead and throw in the radii. 2 inches and 1 inch radius. Radii. Let's go back to AutoCAD. Okay, so we're still in the dimension layer. Now instead of linear, we're going to go with radius. If it's an arc, you use radius command. If it's a circle, you use diameter. Okay, so we're going to go with arc or radius because we have arcs. There we go, radius. So there's our first radius. Click. Okay, one problem you may have as you're locating your radius is you may want to have ortho off and or object snap. Sometimes it doesn't move where you want it. As you can see, it's moving all over the place. So if you're having issues locating your dimension, you can always turn off ortho or object snap. Okay, so let me go ahead and click out here. So later on, if you try to relocate it using the grips, it's not going to cooperate because we have ortho on. It's trying to only move vertically or horizontally. So you can always turn off ortho and see now you have more freedom by turning off ortho. Okay, so you always want the leader to be pointing downward. It's the leader of the pack, right? The leader points down on the rest, right? Yep, the leader is snobby, always pointing down on others. It's okay if you have it pointing upward, but it's considered better if it's pointing downward. Okay, hit escape. And notice the arrowhead always points towards the center. Okay, arrowhead for a radius or diameter always points towards the center. Okay, let's do the same thing on the right. Okay, so let's go with the radius again, because we have an arc. And again, you want to turn off ortho so you have more freedom for positioning. There it is. Okay, and one thing you don't want with the leader, okay, so this is the leader. You don't want it to be flat horizontally, nor do you want it vertically. Unless you don't have room and you have no choice, but you want to give it some angle, like a 60-degree angle or 45-degree angle. Okay, you're trying to avoid creating leaders at a vertical or at a horizontal. Okay, good enough. There it is. Hit escape. All right. Now, if you wanted to, you can throw in an overall dimension. So again, for ordering material, in case somebody doesn't know how to add, 6 plus 1 plus 2 is 9. If you want, you can throw in a backup dimension. Okay, so we can throw in a linear dimension and go quadrant to quadrant for the overall dimension. But you're not allowed to have double dimensioning. If you can calculate it, you're not supposed to put it in there. So, for example, 9 inches can be calculated by adding 6 plus 1 plus 2 is 9. So it's considered double dimensioning. You're over dimensioning. So some can say, well, why don't we leave the 9 inside and take out the 6? Because the 6 in this case is more important than the 9. But if you want to leave the 9 in there, so you have to either delete the 9 or leave it in there but add parentheses. Okay, so we can double click on the dimension. Give it a second, double click. And you can use the arrows on the keyboard to go all the way left. Use the arrow on the keyboard and type in a parenthesis. And then use the arrow to go all the way to the right. The arrow pointing towards the right on the keyboard and add the second parenthesis. Once you're done, click away. Okay, so that's one option. Okay, so either take out the 9 or put it in parentheses. Let me hit escape to exit the command or the overwrite. So when an inspector or a machinist sees this in parentheses, they know to ignore it. They only use the dimensions that are without parentheses. So when the machinist is milling around, right, with the NC programming, the drills are going around and removing material to create this nice radius. They want to know this radius. They want to know that radius. They want to know the center, right? Center to center, 6 inches. The overall length is just a bonus. Anything they see in parentheses, they just ignore it. All right, so it's hard to see, but there is a gap there. You can always extend the gap by using the blue grips. I tend to do this a lot at work when it seems like it's touching. Oh, let me turn on ortho. Turn it on. Turn on ortho so I guarantee that it's going to move vertically. Does it want to? There it is. Got to turn off object snap. It's trying to snap. Object snap. Let's try it again. Just so we can see the gap. There it is. Hit escape. Now we can see the gap between the object line and the extension line. All right, so we're not done yet. Now we have these circles, right? Hey, teacher, don't we have to dimension the circles, the diameter? And yes. Okay, now, if these two circles were holes, right? We're removing material, right? If these two were holes or counterbore hole, we'll talk about counterbore holes in a separate chapter, then you would use diameter to dimension these two circles. But these circles are actually shafts, right? So if we go back to our 3D model, these are actually cylindrical shafts, right? So the rule is, if it's a shaft, you do not dimension the circles. If these are holes, then you do dimension the circles, right? So let's go back. So again, instead of shafts, if these two circles were representing holes, let me hit escape to deselect, escape on the keyboard. If these two circles were holes, then you would use the diameter. Command to throw in the diameter dimension, right? Then this would be the correct way of dimensioning. But these are not circles, these are shafts. So the rule is, if these circles represent holes, you dimension the circles, but if they represent shafts, solids, then you do not dimension the circles. So I need to delete them. Instead, you have to dimension the rectangular view. So these are round shafts, but from this perspective, it looks rectangular. So you actually have to dimension these with the diameter, because these are solid shafts and not circular holes. Okay, so we need to throw in linear dimensions. Okay, so we're going to go from, let me turn on an object snap. Go from this point to this one. Okay, there's our first one. And now we need to draw one for the little one. Okay, so go to linear. And we can go off to the side, right side or left side, either one is correct. Click. Okay, let me hit escape. Now this is starting to look too crowded, so we need to adjust this, right? We need to make some adjustments. We can either take the 6 and go in further. Same thing with the 9. You can move it further away. This is just getting way too tight. Okay, hit escape. Or you can always move the top view upward to make more room. But we're going to leave it alone. We're just going to put enough spacing for it to look decent, right? Same thing with this one. Move it up. All right, let me hit escape. All right, so even though we have our diameters for the shafts, so 0.75 and 250, we need to add the diameter symbol. Okay, so we do need to add diameter to indicate that these are cylindrical and not rectangular. Okay, so let's go back to the answer key just to show you. Okay, so we need to add diameter symbols. Okay, so how do we do that? Let's go ahead and insert them. Okay, let's do the top one first. So I'm going to double click on the 250, double click. And make sure it's blinking here on the left. If not, just move using the left arrow key on your keyboard, go all the way to the left. Okay, and then we have symbols up over here on the right. So anytime you double click on text, you can insert symbols or even text or additional numbers. So I'm going to go to symbol here. And we do have the diameter option. It's the third option. There it is. And then click away. I'm going to click away. There it is. Diameter 250 for the medium one here. Now we're going to do the same thing for the little one. So let me hit escape to deselect and let's repeat. Double click. Do the same thing here. See how it's blinking on the front? That's what we want. And now we can insert our diameter symbol. And later on, I'll show you how to insert other symbols like counterbore, countersunk, depth, etc. Okay, and then click away to exit. Now, let me hit escape on the keyboard. So now this doesn't look right. You don't want an extension line crossing through text. So what we can do is take this and just pull it outward. Okay, hit escape. Another thing we can do is add a break. Okay, so we can add a break here. Let's see if I remember. Okay, we're almost there. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything before we do the break. Okay, everything looks right. Nothing's missing. I can actually move this one inward a little bit so it doesn't look too far out. Let me turn off ortho. Just pulling this inward a little bit. There it is. Hit escape. Okay, so let's address this part. It's okay if extension lines cross each other, right? Extension lines. What's not okay is to cross an extension line with the dimension line. Dimension line has an arrowhead. Okay, so we can add a break. So let's go to the Annotate tab. And somewhere in here we should have a break option. Let's go to the Dimensions panel, go downward. Somewhere in here we should have the break, if I can find it. Well, actually it's up here. There it is. We have the break command. Okay, so we're going to break. Select the dimension you want to break, which is this one. Click, and let me see if I have to click this one or maybe just click enter. Okay, let me hit enter, see if it accepts it in 3, 2, 1, enter, and it automatically adds the break here and also here, but here we don't need it. Okay, it's okay if you break, my mistake, intersect extension lines, but this is the one that we actually wanted. All right, so that's how you add a break. You can also undo a break. You do have that option. Should be able to click and right click and remove the break. Nope, don't see it. Let me go back. Okay, let me go back to break. And I can click remove. So here it is. We can remove breaks if we wanted to. Okay, here's a remove option. Okay, I'm just going to hit escape and leave the breaks in there. All right, so looks like we're done. Let me check the answer key. Yes, we're cheating. Take a look at the answer key. We have all our green center lines, all our dimensions. And again, notice how everything's grouped. We go from small dimension to larger dimensions, right? You want the older siblings outside and the little siblings on the inside. You don't want them to get cold. And you have the larger siblings, older siblings protecting the little ones, right? So you go from small to large in most cases, 99% of the time or 90% of the time. And you want leaders to be pointing downward. The leaders are snobby. They want to point down towards you, right? Versus having them pointing upward. And the leader always points, the arrowhead always points towards the center. The arrowhead needs to point towards the center. It automatically does that. Okay. All right. So don't forget to save your work. And that's the end of this lecture, or this video, I should say. Bye.